Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and this is the My Sober Addiction podcast, where we are happy, healthy, wealthy, loved, and free. And, dear loved ones, I have Clive with me, but not in the capacity as a guest. I would like for Clive and I to really just chat, really not as an interview, as a guest or whatever. I love talking with Clive, and I really just kind of want to go for that type of format. And he agreed. So here he is. Hello, Clive.
Hey, really happy to join you. It's nice to join America and England up. And yeah, it's a good topic to be talking about. We're going to be talking about attention today, and certainly it's something that I struggle with at times. I believe I may have a bit of ADHD, but I have not ever followed through for diagnosis. But certain things, like I've got 20 projects on the go at any one time, and that my brain never actually shuts up at all. And again, I think, that's probably led me into some quite addictive behaviors at times. There's definitely, I think, a correlation between, a mind that won't quite settle its attention and seeking out stimulus in other forms.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like what we were talking about before, we were talking about your attention, and it's kind of funny because you mentioned how your brain never shuts up, right? But then there's other people who could not tell you what they've thought about for the past, I don't know, hour, 2 hours. It's as if they're just switched off. And it's kind of funny because I don't know. I think, how can there be that much difference between two people? I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of veering off into the weeds a little bit.
One of the interesting things is they reckon some people do not really have an internal monologue. They don't have that voice in their head that's continually talking to themselves. And I've done a bit of research on this by talking to people. And there's a few people I've met who go, no, I don't. And I'm like, what? You don't talk in your own head? And that to me seems quite surprising. And again, maybe talk to your partner or your kids and see what they do, because they might surprise you. But again, with myself, for example, I know that I continually talk to myself inside my own head. And that very much seems to direct my attention. So at the moment, I've been very much caught up with the whole Palestine stuff and, wars and corruption. And, that goes around my head an awful lot. And I'm continually trying to work out, what's right, what's wrong, whether there's any way of influencing these things. Whereas someone else will just be like, oh, it's nice and warm today.
What we were talking about before is where you direct your attention, right? And do you feel like you maybe, and I'm just curious, really, do you feel like you get your anxiety up a little bit when you think about things? Because my thing is, I'm trying to not focus on things that I cannot control. And that may be a little bit of a different take than what you're going with. But I mean, it's obvious because you can't look at situations like that and not care, because because you just can't. I mean, if you have any heart at all, it's like, I can't look at situations like that and not care. In fact, I probably care too much, or care more than is going to do me any good to, if that makes any sense. I don't even know. But it's like, when I look at situations like that, it bothers me, of course. I mean, anything to do with war and stuff. And I think, and I do think that there is an underlying motive there, but now we can get into some conspiracy theory stuff with that, but because I do believe there's that. But, I guess whenever I try to not direct my attention to some of those things, only because then I guess I get a little bit depressive, because I think there's nothing I can do about that. That is completely out of my hands. And that is, I don't know, it's just not good. I don't like feeling that way.
One of the things they say is one way to instantly cheer yourself up is to turn the news off. And some people do religiously watch the news every day. The first thing they do in the morning is grab their phone and check what the news is telling them. And there's a bit of me that goes, well, I need to have some attention on what's going on in the world, because I don't want to be some mug who just ends up getting steamrolled. my own ignorance. But there's another bit of me going, well, actually, if all this information that I've known over the years that's caused me worry and anxiety, stress, fear, unhappiness, even, how much of that I've consumed and actually taken on board have I actually made positive changes with? If I hadn't have heard any of the news for the last 20 years, then my attention wouldn't have gone in those directions. I may have built, something wonderful in my community, for example, because my attention was focused on what I could do, like you say, rather than what I can't change. I was focusing on what I can. But I know that I have spent a lot of my life worrying about things that I cannot change and actually spending quite a lot of my attention on those. And there is some conjecture that, social media, algorithms, and the internet is designed to take your attention in certain directions, and it could be for other people's profit or for their power. And again, I find it very hard to put my phone down for prolonged periods of time. It feels like I'm getting useful information from it. But there's a bit of me that feels that I am also ruining my own happiness and productivity by doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that definitely, because like I try to not listen to the news as much, mainly, and in a lot of cases, and I don't know how it is there, I would assume the same. But I mean, it depends upon which outlet you listen to, which spin you're going to get on it. You could listen to like in America, you could listen to a left wing spin or a right wing spin. And it's like, depending upon which outlet you listen to, they're going to cater to, either angering one group of people and making the other group roll their eyes or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. I don't want to be angered, obviously, but there's so much to be angry about. But I guess it's when we see injustice, it's just part of our human nature to respond, with some form of emotion, which would be anger in that case, when you're talking about war and injustice and things like that. It's like, well, what do you expect me to do? I mean, I'm a human and I'm seeing other humans suffering. I'm going to be angry about that. But anyway, but yes, getting back to the attention thing, sometimes it is better to bring our attention back to things that are under our control, I suppose.
Well, I mean, one of the things I heard said is that, if you're worrying about something petty, like someone said something to you and you've got upset by it, like they said, oh, your face is funny or something, you know what I mean? And you're like, my God, how dare they, the rage and the indignation. And what they're saying is, if stuff like that bothers you, then you need a bigger problem, in your life.
Well, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Like really, really should be like, well, how do I double my earnings this month? Might be a better question. If you were focused solely on that question, how do I get my health up to 90% instead of 70%? Then actually, if that was a more important goal for you than having this random person's approval of your face, then actually your attention becomes very productive at that point. And I think some of the times, when I used to smoke cigarettes, for example, I don't think I had enough attention on, my own health and my progress in life and my happiness, where my happiness came from. I thought happiness came from the cigarette. Because I wasn't finding where happiness really lives within inside of me, And I think my attention had been so distracted by so many different things in the world that actually getting back to who I am and how I feel happiness was really important. And that's quite a journey.
Well, I thought about what you were talking about a second ago about the person who doesn't like your face. And you can get upset about that in a couple of different ways. One, you can get upset about that because it just hurt your feelings. Okay. All right. That's one way. Or you could how I would probably get upset about that is I would be like, dude, I didn't ask your freaking opinion. You know what I mean? I didn't ask. I don't care. Why are you looking at my face? That would be my reaction. which would still be not good because I'm getting my blood pressure up or whatever. Because I'm, thinking, dude, shut up. I didn't even ask. Don't care, But it's like, do you not care really? Because you're pretty upset. It's like, I don't care what you think, but I am kind of upset about the fact that you even brought it up in the first place. But some people are out there like that. I mean, they're petty like that. They go that's there's people out there that will say something like that to you. And as ridiculous as that may sound, it's true. They do it.
So again, thinking about, kind of like solving problems, like if you have the problem of someone saying something to you that you don't like, you either have that choice of putting a boundary in and saying something back to them, like, hey, that's what I'm curious. Why are you saying that?
Yeah. Why would you even let those words come out of your mouth?
I like the curiosity approach. I think in life, curiosity goes a long way, especially with people that you're inclined not to agree with on the whole. It's probably nice to find out why they're doing it. And actually it catches people off guard as well, especially if they're not being particularly nice. Oh, I just noticed you're not being very nice. Is there a particular reason for that? That catches people off guard,
I know. That's great. That's great. In fact, I'm going to have to store that little nugget because I'm going to have to use. But it did make you think of this. Okay, I have in the lovely Kitty would tell you, I'm very interested in people's motivations. It's like somebody does something, I'm like, why? What would motivate that person to do that? And I know this is getting off the subject, but that's okay. Let the conversation breathe naturally. So, but I often do find myself wondering what would motivate someone to do whatever, say that they don't like my face. Why would you even say that? What's your motivation? What do you hope to accomplish from that? Do you just want to piss me off? Do you want to hurt my feelings? Are you trying to start a conversation, a confrontation? I mean, what would, and then it's like, why are you focusing on that? Why does it go? Hey, this is me speaking to myself at that point. It's like, why do you care? He's a dipshit. Don't even worry about it. Just let it go because whatever.
But that's it. That person has managed to grab your attention. And
yeah, absolutely.
At that point, that is possibly what they wanted. They wanted to have that control. Now, there's a guy on Facebook, I can't remember his name, or maybe put it in the show notes if I can find him. Really good guy. He talks about walking into people's frames. So if someone sets you up and they go, oh, you always seeking attention, aren't you? And you go, oh, what do you mean you've walked into that frame, you've accepted what they've said in some respect, you've risen to the bait. It's like that kind of Wayne's World. You've been fished in, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, you don't need to walk into the frame. You just say, well, I'm just curious why you'd think that, It's like, and again, we do it to ourselves, we say ridiculous things to ourselves, like, why are you so stupid, And we start paying attention to ourselves. But I think, that voice that some of us have, at least, is built up of lots of other things that we've heard all over the place, and we've kind of got our own identity and our own core. But I do think that, we've got all these kind of like other different voices and, responses that are almost like little viruses running in the background that become so automatic that we don't even know that we're doing it anymore. And that also then affects that person. We go, oh, I don't like your face. It just comes out of our mouths, without the filter. And, while we notice other people doing it to us, we probably have been doing it to other people, but just on different things that we don't even notice that we're doing it.
Well, that kind of brings us back to the attention thing, because it's like, we do things on autopilot. We do, I guess it's learned behaviors and just things that we have been programmed into us. It's like there's some people will have, I don't know, maybe, but some people just have programmed behaviors where if they see a certain thing, they react in a certain way every single time, regardless of whatever the situation may be. So it's like, are they reacting more to a thought or is it just programmed behavior? And I hate to use that word when speaking about a person, but I mean, we're all guilty of it. We've all got a certain amount of programming.
There's kind of a philosophical angle that, whether freedom is the ability to place attention on purpose and not by reflex. So if you're actually able, if someone else can control your attention and your response, then you are not free anymore, like, and I guess with addictions in particular, we kind of, it takes that, freedom away from us because we have the, do you want it? Yes, you do. Like it's just that kind of automatic response. It fills a gap, it fills a place where I don't feel comfortable. It's covering something. So I mean, at the moment we're doing this fast together. Like you're on 24 hours, your fast nearly. And we're going to go 3-day fasting, which we'll do another episode about. But what I find interesting in that is that I am thinking about food. My attention is being drawn to food, and I want to have control of that, to go, well, actually, no, my body is having a break from food and I'm going to enjoy the process. And I am in control of that. And as soon as I start to realize I'm in control of it, I start to remain focused and in control, I think, which, again, does give you some degree of power and strength in your life. And I think by practicing these things, we can actually realize just how in control we can be.
Well, like earlier, I was in our WhatsApp group chat. By the way, loved ones, if you want to join that, there will be a link to that also. We have some pretty good conversations in there, so I do recommend anyone who wants to join that. Yes, you would have to download the WhatsApp app. But anyway, so now that I've said that, I guess a little shameless plug there, but whatever. Dom and I were actually talking about the fast earlier, and I was like, but it really makes me think about that, a saying I've heard in the past, eat to live, don't live to eat. Because so many times we do live to eat. It's like we're so focused on, ooh, I want to eat this or that. And as ridiculous as it may sound, we do that, right? I mean, some people are more guilty of it than others, but I don't think any of us are completely innocent of that because we've all got our things we like to eat, But right now, I'm so focused on this fast that I'm trying to think of what you could put in front of me that might be very tempting. But I don't think I could be tempted right now. I'm focused like a laser on doing that. Now, I'm not saying that if I were to get a massive headache later today, and I know that it's a hungry headache, and the only way I can fix that is to eat. At that point, I may get out and say, Clive, I got to bail out. However, so far, so good. It's been fine. But I don't think that there's anything you could tempt me with right now. Only because I'm focused on doing this. I'm coming up on 24 hours now. What time is it? Yeah, I'm like about an hour and a half away from being, about an hour. Yeah, about an hour and a half away from being 24 hours. Into a 72-hour fast, yes. But so, but hey, a third is good.
But this is the interesting thing between, say, for example, if we look at an addictive substance like nicotine, is very easy to get tempted and your brain plays tricks on you. I mean, I've thrown tobacco away before and I've gone and fished it out the bin. I've gone, I'm going to throw this tobacco away. And after that, I'm not going to smoke again, or I'm going to smoke these 5 cigarettes first, throw the tobacco away, and then I'm not going to smoke again. And then I will be like at the shop 2 hours later buying more tobacco. And yet with, say, like water, for example, you drink a glass of water and you think that's nice, it hits the spot. If you're thirsty, you really want to drink that glass of water. But you don't keep drinking water again and again afterwards. It served its function. You didn't drink it particularly because it was pleasurable. You enjoyed drinking it because you were thirsty. But once the thirst has gone, then it served its purpose. Whereas with the nicotine, it gives you an endorphin rush. And we all like an endorphin rush, and we all are happy to keep getting more and more endorphin rushes, And I think that's something we need to look at when we're doing something. Is it just giving us a temporary pleasure that, is that because suddenly our attention is very easily hooked back to what's going to give us pleasure, what easily gives us pleasure. And that's quite dangerous. So I don't load up TikTok, for example, because I know I can get caught scrolling on it for hours and hours. It's so quick. It's so like, there you go. But a lot of people are. I, however, do scroll Facebook for many hours sometimes, and that is an addiction in itself. And my attention is stolen by Facebook.
Yeah, well, that's the short form content. It is kind of ruining people's attention spans, like the 1 minute, or less. I mean, it really kind of is. I mean, it's like in order for you to watch a video that is, I mean, not necessarily you, but most people who are really like people who go down that TikTok rabbit hole. It is to get them to watch something that's longer than, I don't know, 5 minutes. That's you are. It's not easy to do because they're so focused on 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, and the thing is, each one of those is another dopamine hit. You know, as long as it's something they wanted to see, but then again, that also adds to the addictive side of it. It's like if you're looking for videos about baking, or if you're looking for videos about woodwork, I don't know, anything, any topic. It's like, okay, every time I see one of these videos that I want to see, I get a little dopamine hit, right? And part of the fun part of the fun of it is when I don't see those, I'm like, I'm scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Oh, here's one, bam, there's your dopamine hit. And it's like, okay, that was nice. Scrolling, scroll. Oh, here's another one. And there's your dopamine hit. And that is an addictive thing. And it's meant to be all that short form content so that you keep getting it over and over in rapid fire to the point where you're not going to be satisfied, or people are not going to be satisfied with anything else because that's what they've become addicted to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways we have become more and more consumers. It's become easier and easier to consume information, entertainment, and to do it fairly freely, except it's not free because it takes our time, and our attention is being sold to the highest bidders. And it's not helping us move our lives forward, but it's keeping us happy in, like, so for example, you might be working a job you don't like, or you might be living in a place you don't like, or you may live in a house you don't like, or with someone you don't like. And that's okay. You can solve that by just enjoying being on your phone and taking in those hits. But if you didn't have that, maybe you would start to go, oh, maybe I need to switch my jobs. Maybe I need to, I feel a sense of discontentment at the moment. But the problem is, if you cover that up the whole time, if you don't learn to sit with discomfort, you never actually address what's causing it and maybe how to solve it. So, if we cover a cut with a plaster as soon as we do it, we don't necessarily see what state that wound's in. We're just, oh, it's much easier if I just cover it up and don't look at it. And I think a lot of people aren't wholly happy with their lives or happy with, what's going on around them. And we could have a little bit more influence in that, maybe. We could live a little bit healthier, a little bit happier, give a little bit more to other people around us and to ourselves, maybe. And, going back to the Rat Park experiment, they do show that people who live in nicer environments, with a nicer community around them, suffer far less from addictions. When we feel isolated and alone, and we feel kind of deprived of nice things around us, then we are very open to getting addicted to easy fixes. And that might be alcohol, it might be TV, it might be social media, it might be watching the news. And, it could be cigarettes, it could be crack cocaine. But we are much more inclined to stay addicted to things that ease our pain or seem to be easing our pain. But actually what they're doing is that they're sustaining the pain, I think.
That kind of brings me around to a point that I make a lot, and that's how awareness of an issue, or awareness of your own habits, or awareness of, or maybe that's where we need to learn to get to know ourselves, because we would probably be surprised if we realized how little we know about ourselves, right? But what I mean is, when we is awareness. It's like, once I could bring into my awareness that doom scrolling on TikTok or doom scrolling on Facebook is not good for me. It's not necessarily bad, but you need to draw the line somewhere. And be like, okay, this is the limit. And but once you become aware, I say all the time, awareness is a key, because once you become aware of, well, my eating habits have gone really bad, and I need to start watching what I eat. I need to stop, just because, like, I graze. I will just graze. It's funny because and anybody who knows me knows that I will graze on. But I've tried to do better about it, like some nuts, like walnuts or maybe sesame sticks and things like that, rather than potato chips and things like that. But I graze a lot, and that's one of the things about this fast that's kind of funny, is because I do, I graze all day long. I mean, I just kind of snack little bits, maybe a handful, maybe not even that much of something, but at least hourly, probably. But, but I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to get better about it. And that's what I mean when I say awareness is key, because once you become aware, and or brought into your attention, however you want to word it, it's like, I'm conscious of this, I'm aware of this, or it has now been brought to my attention. Same thing, right? But now I'm aware of the fact that I graze a lot. So therefore, I probably need to become more aware of it. So therefore, I'll do less of it, or at least graze on things that are more healthy. I mean, if nothing else, because, yeah, like, I remember I had a job once, and everybody brought in candy all the damn time. I mean, it was almost like it was a contest to see who could bring in more candy. And everybody just it was like it was like a free for all of candy. I don't know how much I would eat during a shift, and I probably don't want to know, but it was just constantly there, you know? And then when I finally got away from that, and I realized, geez, how much freaking candy did I eat? I mean, it was not good. I mean, really. And I'm not talking about little, like gummy bears or something that's like, whatever. I'm talking about like whole Reese's, peanut butter cups. And
this is the thing. I mean, you can have that awareness that you are eating too much candy, that you like candy, that it's hard to stop eating candy, but the thing is, it's knowing why you value not eating candy, I would say, is where the attention needs to go. It's not on what you're doing, it's about why you actually don't want to do it. So I know with smoking cannabis, for example, I know I do not want to smoke cannabis because it makes me feel very anxious. It is just like out of, the stratosphere, anxiety. So therefore, it's not a problem. I used to smoke it quite habitually. But as soon as I worked out I don't like it, there are other reasons, though. It was also breaking the law. It was, there's a lot of reasons why I decided I did not want to be smoking cannabis. It was not valued.
Well, it's kind of funny though, because, and you can ask my mom, ever since I was a kid, that was a funny thing about that whole candy thing episode I just told you about. I've never been a big person. I've never really cared much for sweets. Never. Like, my mom would tell you, when she says when he was a kid, most of the time he would rather have a pack of French fries, or I guess chips where you live, but but he would rather have a pack of French fries than a candy bar most of the time. Now there may be times when I would want a Snickers bar or something, but like, it was like that time when I was in that job and we did that. Like, there was a group of us that did that, and I'm like, why I don't even eat candy like that. Never had before, haven't since. But it's like, once it came into my awareness, as I said, once I came to my attention, this is what you're doing, and you don't even know it. And you'd probably be appalled if you knew how much you've been eating.
But sugar is as addictive as a lot of things. I mean, it's highly addictive, and you can get monkeys addicted to sugarcane, because the body just goes, oh, I like that energy rush. It's a very functional energy rush. And again, putting that attention on understanding why your body likes something, even though it's not good for you, is quite a good awareness. I mean, it certainly helps me, I think, to understand why I like it, but why it's doing me harm, and what I can do instead. But going back to attention, you were talking about autopilot, and I think this is a really good one to discuss, because I was listening to something last week about beliefs and about how we kind of work our whole lives based on what we believe, and those beliefs, a lot of them are quite subconscious, so I might believe that, I'm not worthy of making a lot of money, for example, and that will then filter through into my actions, will just kind of resonate with that belief, because that's what I'm thinking. But because my attention is focused on, oh my God, I'm skint and I haven't got enough money and whatever, and oh yeah, I'm never going to make money or whatever, that's where my attention is, rather than, you've got this belief, haven't you, that you're not worth earning more money, for example. Now, if we can understand our beliefs a little bit better, I think, that is the key to slightly tweaking them and changing that kind of autopilot. If we believe that we're not worth something, or that we must have a relationship to be happy, or, this, out there, if we need to understand those beliefs, where they've come from a little bit, I think if we put a little bit of attention in that direction, it can help us move forward. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, well, it's we've mentioned it, and this is very famous saying, where attention goes, energy flows, right? And your attention is your energy. I mean, whatever you focus on is where your energy is then going. And, you can argue whether or not that'll cause that to manifest more or less. That's not even important. It's like, but if I'm focused, is, as I said, awareness is the key. Where am I directing my energy? What am I focusing on? And is it worthwhile? Right? Like you had mentioned during this fast, you mentioned an app where you can donate a meal. What was it?
Yeah, there's a share a meal app. So I've managed to donate some of the meals on there. Yeah.
And like you want to donate some meals to Palestine. That's fantastic. I mean, and that is directing your attention to something that is worthwhile, right? And I guess you're being more proactive, and rather than just being like, oh, that's so sad. You're actually doing something that is a good thing. Anyway, that's just
tangible. Yeah. So we're taking an action on something rather than just putting it around our heads in a cycle. And I think this is fair. We can kind of file stuff away if we feel that we've done what we should with it. And I think there's a lot of unfinished things in many people's lives, that we haven't completed, or we haven't finished off stuff that's important to us. But if we don't really look at what is important to us, then we don't know what we should be addressing. And sometimes if we look at what's important to us, it just becomes so overwhelming, because there's just so much. So again, how do we filter that out in a kind and sensible manner that we can actually start to get motivated and confident and happy and enjoy maybe making some progress in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I just, I just like to like I said, get aware of what am I focusing my attention on? Because I feel like when you do that, sometimes you'll be shocked. I mean, I have in the past, I've been shocked. It's like, geez, have I really been focusing that much attention on that? And I can't even give you an example right now, but it has happened many times in the past. Of course, especially when it came to drugs. I mean, hello, when I was on drugs, 100% of my time was dedicated to that. And it had to be, and that's kind of by design, I suppose. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it's almost shocking when we realize how much of our attention is focused on things that if you really stopped and thought about it, you would probably be like, yeah, I don't want to give my attention and subsequently my energy to that. Or, but we do until we get aware of it. As I said, that's why I always say awareness is key. Once we become aware of this is what I'm doing, and once we become aware of it, that's usually when we can hopefully take some action on it rather than just go bury our heads in the sand.
But this is it. I mean, we've got kind of low energy things that we can give our attention to, and we've got higher energy things. So, for example, if I sit and learn to play guitar, that might be a slightly higher energy thing because I'm learning something, I'm doing something creative, and it's something that's not particularly easy. But if I keep at it, then I will see progress and gains, and that will be a good feeling. However, if I, make eating sweets the thing that I've chosen to do, or pornography or gambling or what, those are lower I don't think anyone can really argue that those are lower vibrational things to put your attention on. They are not healthy. They can be fun, but fun doesn't necessarily mean good energy. It's like you can eat some sugar and you might get energy for 10 minutes and then a crash, but actually if you eat something better, it will give you energy throughout the day. If you eat your oats and whatever. And maybe we need to look at our activities in that way. It's like, what is actually, if I write some poetry and I create a website and I go down the road and I cook a meal for my friend and have a good night talking, those are good vibrational things to put attention on. Whereas if I sit and watch the news and get in a state of despair about how I think the world is without even changing it, then I'm going to feel hopeless and lost. And I'm going to feel much more likely to bolster myself up with a quick fix of some nicotine or alcohol or a cheeky wank,
Right. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because when we look at things, okay, like you mentioned, pornography or gambling or eating sugar, okay, or learning to play guitar. Now, clearly, we know what the better choice is, but why is it? And maybe this is getting off again on this conspiracy theory thing, but it does seem as if those things, those first three things, are more promoted than the learning guitar or fixing a meal or whatever, doing something nice, doing something good, something high vibrational. Why are those things not? And maybe this is just asking the question to go down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole. In fact, I know that it is. However, but again, it brings us back to attention or awareness. It's like I'm aware of the fact that these things are low vibrational, generally not healthy. I know this now, and I know that I tend to fall into those little traps. But now that I'm aware of, one, they're not healthy, and two, I do have a tendency to fall into those traps. Now that you know those things, you can correct it.
However, I believe I have always had a belief that people who pursue high vibrational interests are boring.
Well, okay, all right. You may be right a little bit.
But I don't think that's true. I actually think that's completely not true.
Well, it's true on the short term.
Maybe.
Yeah.
People who are disciplined and focused, again, but that can be lopsided, and maybe that's not high energy or balanced. Like sometimes it goes out of balance the other way, and we do tend to possibly have those people highlighted to us. Whereas what we should be looking for is people who inspire us to go, actually, yeah, I'd quite like to be doing. And like they say, it's not where you go. It's not the fact that you're learning guitar. It's the fact that you actually enjoy learning it. You've got to enjoy the journey.
Believe it or not, I've been down a little rabbit hole with Buckethead lately. The guitar player, he's unbelievable. But it's like if you have seen Buckethead years ago when he was just learning, yeah, that would appear to be boring. It's like nobody wants to sit here and watch you play scales, dude. Nobody wants to sit here and watch you learn chord progressions. That sounds boring as hell. Chord progressions. Just those two words sounds pretty boring. However, if you look at Buckethead now or whenever, it's like, damn, he's amazing. That sure is not boring. He's like, yeah, but I had to go through all that other long, boring stuff to get that good, just for example.
But it's the middle ground, isn't it? I mean, we see all these people who are celebrated for being stars and celebrities, but actually it's the people who, have spent, a couple of months learning something and then can sing a song down the pub or whatever, and enjoy it. And, that really, we kind of aim too high sometimes. And we think, because there's a whole industry around perfection, and, there's an industry around people being so perfect at one thing. And yet that is not real life, like I would rather watch someone play guitar who has a full-time job and has learnt it on the side, but is actually very passionate about what they do,
Well, yeah, definitely that. I mean, it is fun to go and, I wouldn't dare sing karaoke, but it is kind of fun to go and watch people do karaoke, right? I mean, now that you mention it that way, like with the locals doing the,
But again, come back to life should be more fun. We should have more fun. I don't think fun should be a dirty word, but how we have fun is, quite important. And, that's not to say that we can't do it by having a whole box of chocolates on a weekend, watching bad TV sometimes, that can be fun.
yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned, I mean, it's sort of on the subject. Like last weekend, we went to like the farmer's market, and then we went to like, they had the big 127 yard sale. It's a humongous, like 600 plus mile long yard sale. It spans like 6 states. Anyway, it's a big to do. It's a big thing. But so we're walking around these places, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of fun things going on, whatever. And it's like more than half the people you watch, they're literally walking through with their phone about 8 inches from their faces, literally walking with that. I mean, yes. And I'm like, put the damn phone down and look around. I mean, life is happening right here, and besides, you look ridiculous too, but that's another thing, I'm not, they didn't ask my opinion on that, but it's like, you look ridiculous walking around with your phone 8 inches from your face for,
I'd have got my phone out and live streamed the shame of them all. I'd have just been like, yeah, film you. No, film you. And then there'd be someone filming me, filming them. And I'd be like, yeah, well, it's okay.
Oh, and then you get the ones who are angry about you. I didn't give you permission to film me. I'm like, well, you're in public, so I don't need your permission, but whatever.
I've got my phone out as well. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've got, that's right. I've got my phone out too, buddy. What are you going to do now? No, but I mean, it's like, am I being judgy? Am I being a little judgmental towards those people? Yeah, probably. I guess I am. Or am I just making an observation on the state of the world or the state of humanity? Maybe it's both, really. I am kind of making a judgment, I suppose. But I'm not going up and there and telling them that to their faces. I let them go, so.
But this, I mean, we can't change the world around us particularly. We can change ourselves. I think, I've spent a lot of the time trying to change the world, and actually what I should have been doing was changing myself. And it's very easy to try and change other people, but changing yourself is probably where it starts. And on a good day, I do think if you change yourself in a positive manner, it affects other people and it ripples forwards. And I do think, again, knowing that, it's good to go and seek out people who have changed themselves in positive ways and use them as a kind of a little bit of a pathfinder, a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of a light, because at the moment we've got open access to a whole load of rubbish, and it actually does take a bit of seeking out to go and find people who talk well and have got something good to say. And I think, that's what I'd recommend people listening in to do, is to go and find good audiobooks, go and find good podcasts and share them with other people as well, and actually have good discussions about what you've learned from them. Because they say, the quality of your life improves with the quality of the questions that you ask. So it's not just about where your attention goes, but maybe it is, it is about putting your attention onto asking the right questions. Like, how do I feel happier without destroying myself? I mean, I've always asked, how can I be happier? But a lot of the time it's been at the consequence of my own health. It's by staying up late, it's by drinking, it's by smoking, it's by, doing a lot of things that weren't particularly good for me. And I enjoyed it at the time. But moving forward, I don't want to live like that anymore. So I am starting to change. And I asked myself the question, why do I want to change? And I asked myself, how am I going to change? And how am I going to maintain that change and be happy about it? Because once I can answer all of those questions, then things get a little bit easier, and the mind kind of syncs up with the body, and it does the right things. It does the right. It goes, actually, no, I don't want that, because my beliefs have changed. I believe that drink would make me happy, but it doesn't. I've kind of worked out. My attention went to a place where I worked out it didn't make me happy. I enjoy doing it still from time to time, but I'm no longer at its beck and call. I'm not going to do it habitually on autopilot, and I'm going to choose to enjoy more not doing it. And that's the key for me. That's been the big turning point over the age of 50, is actually working out I enjoy not doing it more.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think this has been good. Yeah, we did mention that we are both fasting, and Dom is also fasting. And I think we should. I like Dom. Dom's a good dude. I like him. I like him a lot. He's a good guy. I've only chatted with him on the WhatsApp, but I mean, and of course I've heard him on you guys podcasting together. Maybe we should bring him in here and do this. Yeah. When we do, because he's fasting with us. It's the three of us doing it together.
And I think, the project that I talked about, this idea of fasting for change, using a 3-day fast, if you've got the right medical, circumstances to be able to do it safely. I think a 3-day fast with a little bit of focus can actually really change your life. It can be a springboard. So again, we can create some pages on the websites for that. And let's have a look at it. Let's look at whether there's a way of getting people in a bit of a community to look at how they shift their focus on life. Because for me, fasting did help me then take control in other areas of my life. But that's just my story, and I'd be interested to hear what other people think about that.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So yeah, we're gonna do our next co-hosting or just a chatting episode. Regardless of how you want to word it, I didn't want it to be like a guest thing. I wanted us to more talk. But anyway, maybe we should. I think if Dom would be willing to, when we do the chat about the fast, I think that would be good if we could bring him on. What do you think?
I think it'd be a good episode. I think for your listeners, it would be a good one to spark them into a bit of change if they wanted that. And it's also something they can get involved with. Like I say, we've got the WhatsApp group, we've got the websites. And, we're trying to affect, I believe, I'm trying to find a way of helping other people while I help myself, and it would be good to be able to do something that does that, it'd be nice.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, that would be, and that's a good, it's a good way to lead. Well, I don't want to even say lead, but maybe inspire someone to do it, because some people are like, I've never even thought about doing a 3-day fast. It's like, yeah, but these guys did it, Now I'm kind of curious. Now I think I might want to try it.
See, the idea sounds horrendous, but actually, if you talk to the right people about it at the right times, they will tell you, actually, it was the best thing I did. As soon as you've heard someone say, actually, it was one of the best things I did, then it starts to rewire those beliefs that you had. So again, by doing that, and then becoming part of it, and then being able to say, actually, it was really good for me as well, that then helps someone else. And then you've added some value to someone else. And I do think the more we can give to other people in a positive way, we're tribal, humans are tribal people. And to be part of a tribe, you should be valued, to feel secure in a tribe. It's good to feel valued. And if we are able to give and to help people around us, we also help ourselves. And that's, kind of selfish altruism. I think it's a really healthy thing to do, is to help yourself and inspire others. And if we can do that, then everyone starts getting a little bit better.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Well, I think we've done good here. You got anything you would like to finish up with?
No, I'm all good. So yeah, let's put some links in the show notes, and yeah, let's have another chat, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
So between now and the next one, yeah, we'll figure out what when we can get Dom in, and we can have to do the next one on the fast. And your idea on posing a challenge on the website, that's a fantastic idea. Anyway, we'll talk more about that next time, Bill.
Have a good night, Matt. Enjoy.
You too, sir. Thank you, loved ones, and I'll be back directly.